This is Concepts, where two pretentious sirs quibble over ideas that explain today's world. Phil Shea and Steve Rose. My name is Phil Shea. I am writing for makeaskillcheck.com, and you can find more writing by me at hittingeject.com. Steve?
My name is Steve Rose, and you can find more about me at steverosephd.com, where I write about mental health and addiction.
All right, so today we have Jack Pierce, who is a published author who has his own podcast. He wanted me to mention that at the beginning here. It's Terror Tracks with an X. And in that podcast, he talks about his experience publishing in the first half of the episodes. And in the second half of the episodes, he has an audiobook that progressively works through his older works, so you can get a sense of what he is about. This particular episode is a bit confusing because ostensibly we wanted to talk about self-publishing, but you'll see that gets derailed very quickly. We do kind of talk about it a fair bit, and I don't think what he says is... it is accurate, but it's more, he just doesn't like the label of self-published, but we talk a lot about how one can self-publish, so we're sticking with that same label. Final note is that Steve has to cut out at the end because he has a hard cutoff, because that's what happens when you record on your lunch breaks. Anyway, thanks for listening, and hope you enjoy it.
Welcome to the Concepts Podcast.
Welcome.
Today is another guest episode. We have Jack Pierce coming on. Jack, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Jack Pierce. I'm the author of Under a Morning Star, The Suicide Diaries, and about 10 other books at this point. And I'm also the host of the Terror Tracks podcast.
Nice. And all those books were self-published, right?
No, they were all traditionally published.
Oh, really? Oh, damn. Then we're talking about the wrong topic, maybe. But today we're talking about self-publishing, so I guess we can get your perspective on that. So I'm just going to say what the difference is between self-publishing and traditional publishing. Traditional publishing, in that situation, the publisher bears all the costs and risks of publication, but they also retain most of the profit if the book is successful. So they're kind of taking a risk on you. And self-publishing is the opposite, where the author bears all risks and costs, and they earn a higher share, of course. Sorry, I thought we were talking about your self-publishing here, but I guess I was mistaken there. Have you self-published at all?
No, it's fine, actually, because it's sort of the technical term would be I'm traditionally published because, I work with a publisher, but at the same time, I own a part of the, company, basically. Well, that's how I started out, as I bought into the company because it was like a, small press that was local, and they were trying to do some startup stuff, and they had a few authors, but I just went and just said, you know what, I just want a third of this company since I already knew the people anyway, and they gave me a price and I bought in, and that was it. That's how the whole Phoenix thing started before I left and did my own company. So I guess you could say self-published now, even though there's an entire corporation with people that work with me, employees and stuff behind it, but the original run of everything was with a quote unquote traditional publisher.
Right. So it sounds like you're working with a small house publisher right now, like a more of an independent publisher. Is that how you'd characterize it?
Yeah, that's how I started out. But then I ended up leaving that company and starting my own.
Okay. So do you find that working on the publishing side has helped you as a writer? Like, what kind of insights do you find you've gleaned from that?
I've kind of learned that you're probably a lot better off just self-publishing or doing what I do and just owning the company and hiring freelancers or hiring employees to deal with what you have to do. I mean, of course, I have to deal with lawyers and my CPA and, all of that sort of stuff. And I do all the agenting stuff myself, the podcast appearances, I deal with all that. But, and you have cover designers and all that stuff. So you have employees, but the thing with self-publish, I don't like that term because, it's like...
It's got a stink to it, right?
It sounds like someone just threw something up on Wattpad and that was it. Like there was nobody else involved with it. When I hear self, I think, amateurish, I guess.
Yeah.
There's stigmas around it for sure.
I actually had a friend, and I was living in China, and there's a lot of writers there because they're teaching English. People are there because they like writing in English. So one of the guys I met, he said he wanted to be an author, and that he was constantly writing, but he wouldn't put his work anywhere because he said that self-publishing it anywhere or putting it anywhere for free shows that you don't have faith in your own work and that publishers won't even look at you then. What do you think about that?
I think that's just a crock because, there are plenty of people that not plenty of, but, there are people that go on Wattpad and their story gets really big and they end up, getting picked up by a traditional publisher. That's happened before. I don't really, follow that. I just joined Wattpad because I wanted to actually do more of a, because I've already made my money basically.
Right.
And I'm just tired of the nonsense that comes with trying to sell a book. I just say, you know what? I've made my money. I'm doing my podcast now. I'm happy just doing that. I'll just throw the books out there, and I'll just do like a Patreon model versus, trying to, sell them copy by copy, which is just, I'm already getting a headache thinking about it. So
So you made your money in working with traditional publishers?
no, I made it all on my own. Actually, I got robbed by the traditional publisher.
Can you tell us about that kind of transition, what your experience was in the traditional publishing realm?
Yeah, I want to hear about the robbing, but I also want to hear about the success because, like, both those are great stories.
Well, we can just jump right into that. The big problem was, I owned a third of the company, but I was doing 100% of the work almost. I was the one dealing with the cover designers and the different, I've dealt with all the people that, make the book come to market. All they did was kind of sit back and take their fat cut. Well, they never told me how many books I sold. They'd say, oh, you hit number 1 this week. I'm like, all right, that's great or whatever. But, it's like, I didn't know the numbers really. And then I finally realized what the numbers were and found out that I wasn't making as much as
as much as you'd hoped.
I was getting screwed basically. Really big, because Under a Morning Star sold over 20,000 copies.
So what is the kind of cut on something like that? For, say, self-publishing versus traditional publishing, is like the traditional publisher taking 90%?
Yeah, like I was supposed to be. They said they were going to pay me 20%, but then I ended up getting 8.
Yeah, it reminds me of record deals with musicians. I feel like they assume that anybody that's a creative type doesn't know enough about business. And so they're just like, yeah, don't worry about that. We'll give you this advance. But then you end up making almost nothing and are kind of a slave to them. Was it kind of similar for the book publishing area?
I think the problem was I was so busy trying to chase all these other people down that I wasn't paying attention to the actual numbers because, I was getting the checks and they weren't very big, but I was figuring, we'll eventually, it'll pick up at some point. And then it turned out they were taking most of the money and I wasn't seeing it anyway. But
right.
What it ended up doing at the very end, which they're still pissed off about. I'm sorry if you can't swear on here, but that's the only word I could use to.
No, go for it.
Anyway, what really made them mad on the exit was I basically went behind their back and bought out all the rights, from copyright.gov without telling them.
Wow.
Because apparently they forgot that they thought that, Penman's copyright was a thing. Well, it ain't.
Is it a historical thing? I'm not familiar with that.
The Penman's copyright thing is just, I would say it's a myth, honestly. It is a myth that is spread by, people that don't know what they're talking about, where they try to say, oh, well, I wrote this story, therefore, it's legally protected because I wrote it, and I don't need to go register it anywhere. It's just, I'm like, yeah, I could go grab Stephen King's It and change all the characters' names, but keep everything the same and say, I wrote this, where's my royalties, No, there's a reason that there's a copyright.gov. There's a reason that there's a form you fill out to copyright your book because that's how you copyright stuff. It sort of reminds me a lot if you see in the art community, because I'm not an artist, but I know that they have that thing called the original character, call it the OC, where you have they'll usually take, I hate to bring this guy up. God, he's the only one that I can think of right now that I'm so sorry if your listeners get mad at this. The only person I can explain this with is probably Chris Chan because, he thought that Sonic, he mixed a Pikachu and a Sonic the Hedgehog and thought it was his own character. Said it was.
The name sounded vaguely familiar. This is 4chan kind of guy?
Yeah, sort of like that. But he was a guy that was famous all over the internet for just all sorts of stuff he did. And he just got arrested for something we can't talk about on this show, but because it's very disgusting and off topic. But hey, it is kind of on topic because he was an author. He did publish his comic and thought it was real. Thought it was a real story and people just whatever. Point is, he thought that because I took these two characters and mixed them together, it's my original character and I own the trademark and the copyright to it, which you don't. The point is you need to copyright your work, period. Because what is stopping a studio from coming to you, finding your book on Wattpad and then stealing it, and just saying, oh, we'll just run with it and do, like I said, take Stephen King's It and change the character's name. That's it. You have to have paperwork because let's say you wanted to take Universal to court or whatever over the copyright. Oh, they stole my story. What are you going to say? Oh, I wrote it. Here's the Google Doc where it was dated before they grabbed it or something. You need paperwork. It costs $60. Get over it. I
was going to be how much time and effort is this? Because I think people think to copyright something, you need a lawyer involved.
No. I can literally go from, to the copyright.gov, log in and be done with the book in less than 5 minutes. It's like $60.
Oh, that's not bad at all. The cheap version I've heard of for copyrights in this way is if you want like a government dated thing was to, this was from the indie band Bible. They're talking about lyrics and songs and stuff. You could print them out, the music for it, mail it to yourself through the federal mail, and then it'll have a date stamped on it from the government, but you can't open the letter and you can basically only use it once and court once. So your method sounds a lot better.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm not sure, don't quote me on this because I haven't ever done it, but they do say that you can actually copyright up to 10 works for $60, but you have to do it before they're published, which, I usually get the copyright right when they're published. So I kind of, like, I never have 10 works at one time that I want to batch. Yeah,
you're just like, I've got 5 books done. I'm just going to wait until we got another 5 just to save $60.
Yeah, just to save $60 because who knows? Maybe I won't write another 5 books. So, I think I paid like around $700 for everything, for all the stuff. But, that's a lot of, that's not nothing for the rights to your work that you worked on for 3 years. And, to have the rights to it in case someone wants to buy it for any, reason, whether they want to do a TV show, a movie, a video game, or, do spinoffs or whatever. Where you get just anything, because that's the thing is you need to copyright the stuff and not be cheap because you don't know what's going to happen with your story later. I'm not saying you're going to end up being, the next Harry Potter, but you might. You don't know.
You never know.
Is it really worth gambling, $1 billion on a $60 fee that you're too cheap to buy?
And you're doing all the work anyways here with this traditional publisher. And so you saw, like, why do I even need them? And you started figuring out how to do it yourself and getting your own copyright because you're already doing all the marketing yourself anyway. And so how did you transition from that into kind of making the money that you deserve here?
I'm really not making any money off it now because the copies have already been bought. You know what I mean? So it's like, like once people bought your book, who's really going to buy your book? It's just kind of.
So you find that the sales kind of drop off. There's no like long tail effect or anything going on?
Yeah. I think it's usually, they say like the grace period is usually around the first 30 days, which I think is not true either. I've had, Under a Morning Star came out. I actually had to look it up last night because I'm just so scattered at times. It came out in July of 2018, and it went to number 1 in October of 2018. So that was, long past 30 days. So, it did well. And, I think 20,000 copies is nothing to scratch at. It's not Under a Morning Star. And the Suicide Diaries did even more, and I was shocked by that. Like, that was something that just blew my mind that the Suicide Diaries sold 1 copy because I hated that book.
Why did you hated like the effort that had to go into it? Like you just weren't satisfied when it was done? What do you mean?
No, because it's like, I feel like the books that you really enjoy are the ones that no one cares about, and the ones that you think are throwaways, like Condemned is another one that I don't understand why that went to number 1 either, because that was just a writing exercise to see if we could write a story that took place in one room, and that somehow shot up. I just like, what? Why don't y'all care about like the good stuff? The stuff that I think is good.
As long as it sells either way, I guess like, you can keep doing the stuff that you like Neil Gaiman, right? Like he just basically writes the stories he wants written at this point. So maybe at some point.
So you say number 1, where was it? Was this Amazon?
Yeah.
On the entire site? That sounds massive.
Well, in the horror charts, it wasn't like, number 1 of all books ever, because, that would be insane.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, no offense, I haven't heard your name.
When you're competing against Stephen King and others, that's still a big, accomplishment. But the strange thing is Stephen King really isn't on the charts that much. Kind of crazy. When you look at the horror charts, he's really not even in the top 10 most of the time, I guess, unless he puts something out. But, like you don't see, like, The Shining and all this stuff, being highly charted. It's a lot of people that you never heard of, which is great, because people, it gives people a shot at least, getting there.
For sure. Do you have any favorite like contemporary author or horror writers?
The only one I can really think of, there's 3. Okay, so there's 3 that I would say is like my holy trinity of like modern horror people, which is Thomas Harris, who did all the Hannibal Lecter stuff. He's great. Clive Barker, who is the one that made Hellraiser and Candyman and all of that, so he's great. And then Michael Crichton, who unfortunately died many years ago, but he wrote Jurassic Park and The Lost World and then Andromeda Strain, all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, his name sounded very familiar.
Yeah, so those 3 are like my top 3 horror authors, period. And Stephen King is in there, but I don't know. I've had one person say I was the second coming of Stephen King, and I almost slapped him just because I'm just like, I don't want to be the second coming of Stephen King.
It's quite the compliment.
Well, it's one of the things that people think is a compliment. It's like when somebody tells a singer that they sound exactly like X star. It's like, you want to be unique. It's nice that they're holding you in that esteem.
It's not even that. It's just I just don't enjoy Stephen King's work, and I don't like him as a person either. I respect him as what he's done. He's a great author. He's done great things, and he's, made the horror genre, really commercially viable, but he is such a prick on Twitter. Oh God.
Oh, really? What's his deal? I don't really follow him on Twitter.
He is just like the entire last 4 years, he did nothing but just whine and complain and just, act like a fucking toddler. Sorry, I shouldn't have said.
It's okay. Just keep going.
About Trump, I'm just like, I don't even see. I'm not even a supporter, or like, I'm not even like a big Trump guy either. But it's like, oh my God, talk about something else. I mean, that's all he ever talked about.
He got political, yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Trump did suck up a lot of air.
It's just like constant bitching. I'm just like, oh my God, I don't care. I get it. You don't like the guy. Why don't you talk about something else?
Talk within your expertise, please. We both have read a lot of books on writing. Do you have any favorite books on writing? Because I know Stephen King has a book literally called On Writing, which I found interesting.
I think that's a terrible manual too, honestly, because most of it is just anecdotes about bullshit of his life. It's just like an autobiography. That doesn't teach you nothing about writing unless it's like, 400 pages into it or something. I mean, I've tried to...
Okay, hit us with your best writing book then.
My best writing book is just stop reading writing books.
Oh, nice. Just do a writing podcast instead.
Well, I would say don't do that either, but I write one. I do one. No, it's just, I don't teach people the technical stuff on writing. I teach people about, more or less just how to handle writing.
Like how to get down and do it? Or do you mean like getting ideas?
How to find inspiration, how to, cultivate an idea, how to, the actual more practical stuff, because you already know all the technical stuff from English class if you went to high school. You know about commas and punctuation and all that stuff, and if you don't, your editor will fix it anyway, so who cares? That's just boring. That's boring stuff that you talk about on a podcast, that sort of thing. Because people, I think, I feel like anytime I listen to a writing podcast, and I'm not trying to be elitist or anything, but I feel like they all tell you the same stuff, and it's just, none of it's really helpful. Like, no one's telling you, something, like the bad side of writing, like the depression that happens with it, or, post-book depression when you finish a book and you're just like, you kind of feel...
You're kind of purposeless without a direction, eh?
Yeah, you just lose all of that stuff, but everyone just kind of acts like it's all sunshine and roses when it's not, I
think it's like the whole thing about like reaching the summit. People always think that like they wish they could just be at the success point, but it's at that point, it's like, what do I do now, right? Like you used to have his purpose, and now it's like, what's next, right?
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes I'm a little bit too negative about the publishing world. And I mean, I have the right to be because I got screwed and a bunch of other stuff. But I feel like people just are scared to pull back the curtain and just tell you the truth about this stuff. And anytime someone says you should write your scene or your book this way, you just turn them off. Unsubscribe from that person because you're not supposed to do that. One thing, and I've done many, I've went on and on about this before on my own show, is I really don't like booktubers, like at all. I don't like, well, not the reviewers, they're fine, but like the people that try to tell you, cut out these 10 words from your noveling, like clickbait like that. And it's just...
Yeah, like I've seen debates about like whether you should use the verb said or not, or whether you should use a lot of active speech verbs. Other people on the other side are saying that the only people that use a ton of active speech verbs are people who write young adult fiction.
If we're going to be on a technical level, I think almost the best said and asked is all you should use. That's about the only technical advice I could give you, because they're almost like invisible.
Yeah, people skip them, right?
To the reader. They're not, they pretty much skip over. They can kind of tell, all right, who said that, and then they'll move on. But if you're trying to read all this stuff like murmured and, pontificated and all this other stuff at the end of your quotation, it's annoying.
Or my favorite actually is from, it's quite frequently in Sherlock Holmes, is when Sherlock will say something outrageous or insightful or whatever, and then Watson will literally ejaculate his phrases. That's the verb that I always think of when I'm making fun of speech verbs. He's like, what? Watson ejaculated. It's just, I guess he just can't hold it in. So that's the verb that I decided to go for.
I just think the problem is that booktubers in general, or these people that try to teach you, lessons on like YouTube, which is all about search engine and algorithms and all that. The way YouTube works makes it where people that want to get big in booktube, they create this stuff that's like clickbait, like I said, like delete these 10 words, or this is how you write a fight scene, and all this stuff,
or never say this,
in your novel. And it's like, but the thing that kind of hit me was, I forgot who said it, but I think it was that, I don't want to say her name, I'm not going to try to cause any drama.
I said it's probably best to skip that.
Yeah, but anyway, I saw the girl, she was talking about, you got to cut these words out of your novel, and I went to a thrift store and I saw this book by Tom Clancy. I don't know which one it was, but it was like 1,500 pages. It was like huge. You could kill someone with the thing. All I remember was that it was a blue cover with red writing. It was, I don't know if it was Red Storm Rising or what, but I opened chapter 1 just to see how he wrote. And every single rule she said he broke in the first page. All of them.
Well, clearly he's a bad writer then. We should all stop reading him.
Yes.
Yeah, we should all stop. We should all just, discount Tom Clancy and listen to The Thought on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's kind of how a lot of these things go. They like to pretend they're experts. And that's the thing I'm kind of learning now is, like, I've written for years in various fashions, and I'm looking at advice because I'm starting to do copywriting. And it's just funny because, like, some of the advice, I'm just like, this seems obvious, or like, this doesn't seem like it's true at all. And it's like exactly what you're saying. They're trying to position themselves as experts when they don't actually. It's probably irrelevant, honestly.
All right, this is gonna blow your mind, actually, because there's actually one booktuber that's really popular. I'm not gonna say her name, of course, but she does like a whole thing about writing and everything. And the thing is, she has no books published.
Whoa.
Like none. She's like one of the biggest ones, and she has like, you go to her website and she's written like 15 novels, but none of them are published. Like self-published, nothing. You cannot see anything she says, because the reason I put my stuff on Wattpad is I'm teaching you how to write, or I'm teaching you how to handle the publishing thing, or just my general thoughts with dealing with the public over, because I've done, other stuff beyond writing, that dealt with the public, podcasts and YouTube and stuff in the past. I've dealt with difficult people before, so, I can kind of help people in that way. But the point is, you go to her website and she had like 15 to 20 books, and none of them were published. So you have nothing to reference if she's right or not, because, if you're here and all that, we'll cut out these 10 words and all that, you was like, okay, well, what does it sound like or look like when you cut out those 10 words? And there's nothing to reference. You have no point of reference. So you're like, okay, well, how does she avoid those words, but also write it where it doesn't seem like she avoided those 10 words, And there was another one who was, another one of those ones that was really big or whatever. And her advice was okay, I guess. Not great, but, she was one of those that tried to tell you how you have to write it this way for it to be popular. And then you go and look at her book, and it's a 2-star book.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so you keep mentioning Wattpad, and I actually was not familiar. Is that something similar to like Substack, or like how does that work exactly?
No, Wattpad is, it kind of gets a bad reputation because of like teen writers and stuff, but it's sort of like the YouTube for books is what they call it. It's sort of like, you publish your story. It's sort of like fanfiction.net would be another one, I think. I don't read fan fiction or write it, so I don't have any expertise on that website, but it's sort of like that where you can just go on there, make your account and publish your stories, or, in different parts, and people can follow you. Sort of like imagine Twitter, but for writers, kind of, it's sort of like that.
Long form Twitter.
Yeah.
And so what would you direct people to do then if it's not like take out these 10 words and quick tips and all that? How would you guide someone in this process of writing?
Write what feels right.
Ooh, I love it.
If it sounds good to you, you listen to it on the text-to-speech and it sounds smooth and it's not, disrupting anything, and it just comes out well, and you think it sounds good, it's good. A thing that Yngwie Malmsteen used to say all the time about, playing guitar is like, if it sounds good, it's good. That's all it is to it. If it sounds good, it's good.
Right.
And so for a new writer who's quite intimidated by that loose structure, is there something that they could do to start in that kind of feeling that and gaining that intuition?
Developing their writer's ear, I guess.
Yes, the intuition side there.
Just write, write what you enjoy. Don't try to write to market. I've done that before and it just sunk like the Titanic. It doesn't work. Readers aren't stupid. They really understand when you're trying to pander to them. They know, they get it, and they will call you out for it when you do that. Write whatever you want, just stop worrying about rules and conventions and having to do it this way, and you have to do this topic and this sort of where you got to avoid this sort of thing, blah, blah, blah. Just write it. Write whatever comes out. Because to me, I don't plot. I do the pantsing thing like Stephen King says, you just start a book and you just see where it goes. And once you're done, you read it. And if you don't like the way it went, you can scrap it or rewrite it or, change, cut out sections and rewrite that or whatever. Your first draft is your vomit draft. It's not, going to come out perfect. What would they say? Like, we have to love our ugly children or something. What was that I saw? Like, talking about like the first draft was like your ugly child and you just like, you eventually get them pretty somehow. I forgot. It was something I saw in some really pretentious writing video about a week ago.
The metaphor I always use is like the first draft is just like dredging up the clay from the riverbed, and then your editing is the actual like adding form to it and making it presentable.
Yeah.
It reminds me of this quote that's often attributed to Hemingway, whether he said it or not. The write drunk, edit sober quote. Have you ever heard that one?
He also said the first draft of anything is shit.
Yeah, I think that's the thing though. Like, what's strange about writing for a lot of people that gives them probably writer's block is that they're afraid they're not going to measure up to the ideal they have in their head. I mean, obviously, when you first write something, people keep like editing it when you're going. It's like that. Just puke it up, man, and work with it as you go. It's just giving you material. How do you tend to get around this? Is that, like you said, like you just kind of sit down and write without looking back, or like how do you keep the momentum?
I have two tips for this, and they're both very negative sounding, but they work. Number one is just write crap. It doesn't matter what it is. It could literally be your like grocery list. Just write something down. Just write garbage. You can delete it later, but it's sort of like you just have to get through over that hump. Other one is write like no one's going to read it because no one probably will. That's terrible, but it's true though. It is true. Like,
Stephen Pressfield, I think, had the same sort of thing where he was saying, nobody wants to read your shit. I think he has a book called that, which is exactly in this line. Like, it's like good ideas, right? Like you have to try to convince people to adopt them or to take a look at it, or like people saying they don't want to work out because they're afraid of getting too big. It's like, these things don't happen by accident, so don't worry about it too much. Just focus on doing the work you need to do.
So related to that, so let's say someone does get past their mental blocks and they actually just write something. It probably won't be read by anyone unless you do an effective job at marketing. And you were able to market yourself to be number one on Amazon, actually beating Stephen King at times in his own category. How did you do it? I think everyone would like to know, how did you do it?
Yeah, that is true. We haven't really narrowed down on that enough. We both really want to know.
We do want to know.
Well, newsletters are a great thing, and BookBub will shoot you straight to the moon if you can get with them, and they're very expensive.
What's it called?
BookBub, BookBub.
I think I remember that. So I self-published 2 short books on Kindle Direct Publishing. And I remember this as being a popular thing, that if you can get into it, they shoot you out to a whole bunch of like lists. Like they have a giant email list, and then it just directs a bunch of traffic to your discounted book, and then the sales shoot right up. Is that kind of the process there?
Yeah. You just go to these different companies that have newsletters, like Bargain Booksy is another one. You can look them up. There's like 100 of them. Free Booksy, Bargain Booksy, Fussy Librarian's another one. I didn't have I have a write-up somewhere where I actually showed my results, but I can't remember all of them.
I mean, if you want to share that, we'd love to link that in the show notes for sure.
Yeah, I can it's actually just a Google Doc where I think I just typed it all up, right when we did one blitz or whatever. They got Under Morningstar to not number one, but it got up like to number 90, I think, when we did it. And it cost us a pretty penny, but we never got with BookBub because BookBub was just like, good luck. If you get in there, though, I hope your wallet's deep too, because it's going to cost over $1,000 to get in here, to get them to do it. But they shoot it to over 1 million people.
No way.
And so then I'm guessing that like it's worthwhile because by having that sales velocity on Amazon, it's going to shoot you to the top and people are going to see it more often and self-reinforce, right?
Yeah, I think someone said that if they put their book in like the free category, because like the BookBub's pricing is kind of like the free is like the cheapest way of like, if you put your book free and get BookBub to promote it, it's like the cheapest price or whatever.
And then once it starts getting a good sales velocity, you add some sort of fee, I assume, like you change the cost.
Yeah, I think the idea is you would hope that it'll eventually get big enough where people will buy your other stuff.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad idea. It probably would happen.
I was going to say that there's a book called Write, Publish, Repeat, and one of their strategies was
love that,
to make a series of books. I think they have 2 that were ridiculous. One was set in like the Wild West era, but because they didn't want to have to be historically accurate, they made it so that the horses are actually unicorns. So any historical inaccuracy, they just act and function as horses, I believe. But because they have that, they're like, if there's any inaccuracy, they're like, well, we're riding on unicorns. What do you expect? The other one was Fat Vampire. They had like a series of 5, and they give away the first maybe 1 or 2 for free, and then sell the bundle for a deal. And a number of like little sales tactics like these.
Yeah, I never really did that, but I mean, I know that that's a common thing, and that probably works for some folks. So I'm not going to discount that at all, but. What I was saying with the whole BookBub thing is, like, you know, I've heard of people doing, like, you know, the free category where, you know, they give their book away and pay the $800 or whatever to get it shot out to 1 million people, and they end up with like 40,000 downloads. That's 40,000 new readers if they do read it and don't just hoard it and ignore it. But, you know, that's 40,000 people, you know, that now have your book on their Kindle regardless. You know, that's a lot. I think that's actually worth it a lot more. You're probably better off just doing it free. One of them free with BookBub. Take the eat the cost of whatever it costs to do that if they let you in, and, you know, that will help you, you know, get a name for yourself, like a bit much bigger name than me, because, you know, I think all my books together, like all 11 of them have sold around 50,000 or more since 2018. But, you know, you could do that with one book in one shot. I mean, that's a lot bigger than I could have ever done or ever will do, probably. Like, I've always heard that when you try to sell your book on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, you're shouting in a stadium, which is true. You know, that's what you're really doing. You're holding up a sign and screaming in a stadium, hoping someone sees it. And, you know, I've had so much money just go down the drain when it comes to Facebook and YouTube. And
the returns are terrible for like anything. Yeah, YouTube's probably better.
Not YouTube. With regular ads, like on social media and stuff, you just lose your ass. I mean, it's crazy, you know, because if you think about it, when's the last time you were looking at your Twitter or your Facebook or whatever site you use and you just were like, I need to buy that book?
I mainly use ad blockers, so I don't even see them. And I think that's probably becoming more and more common.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I think the newsletters are a lot better, because you just pay that fee, the 25, 50, 80, whatever, you know, amount, and they shoot it out to people that are looking for books to read.
Yes.
You know, you're sending it to people that are directly looking for this.
Not just like random people on the street. Take this book.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think you're saying something that Phil and I both know very well in the marketing, not so much marketing books, but we're developing online products. Mine more in mental health and addiction. Phil's and more in games, in the games niche. And email marketing is really where it's at. If you pay for social media ads, as you said, you're just going to lose all your money. And getting your own email list and owning that email list is super powerful. But what you're referring to is not even having to build your own email list necessarily. It's getting your book on these already established lists.
I think building an email list for yourself is not a bad idea. I would never say don't do it. But I think that building an email list should be a passive thing. You should not try to actively build your list, because that is just going to drive you crazy and you're never going to write another book.
Yeah.
You're going to spend all your time chasing that dragon and you're not going to get it. Because this is sort of the same thing, you know, with people that try to, like, because your email list is nothing different than trying to get big on Twitter or Facebook or, you know, YouTube or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like you're chasing subscribers and not working on the product that would make the people come to you naturally. Anything in your marketing that is losing money, that is not going to some sort of benefit, needs to be reallocated somewhere else. And what's the point of me sitting here, you know, 40 hours a week trying, you know, just toiling and driving, pulling my hair out because I didn't meet certain goals on an email list, versus saying, hey, here's $25. Throw me up to your 25,000 readers.
Yes. For writers, that makes a lot of sense, because if you don't want to just focus so much on all the marketing side of it, it saves you a lot of time.
I think if you want to build your email list, the best way to do it is just when you do the whole marketing for your book with other email lists, just put a link in your book, like in the acknowledgments or like the beginning of the book saying, sign up for my email list here. And just let it roll from there. I don't have an email list, but I need to try to do that one day. But I'm almost like debating if I ever want to write another book after all the headache I've been through, or just, you know, let what I've done just stand as its own, you know. But then again, I just released something about a month ago, so I'm still burnt out.
You don't find it like a compulsion? Because I feel like a lot of writers, they say that after all the hassle of doing it, but then they somehow continue to write books.
After 5 novels, 5 novellas, and 1 short story in 3 years, I think I'm done. For now, at least.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's quite a bit.
That's a lot. And so we talked a lot about self-publishing in terms of the process of writing. We talked about a little bit of the marketing process, but I think the platforms that someone would use. Would you maybe talk a little bit more about your thoughts on Kindle Direct Publishing? It's the one that I've used a couple times. I find it very streamlined and simple. Would you recommend Kindle Direct Publishing to people?
Well, I'm actually going to be a hypocrite here because we're actually expanding to Wattpad, and that's mainly because I'm just tired of selling the book. I just want to give them away, and especially during this season, it's like every, not Halloween. Halloween's our biggest season, of course, to, make money off the things because horror. But, after that, I usually give away all the books, in November and December because I just feel like we've had so much, I'm not going to go into a long speech, but we had so much, financial trouble when it came to COVID and all this stuff in the last 2 years. If me throwing out a book that cost me nothing to give it away, for a couple months to help people forget about COVID and being broke or about to be homeless and all that, that'd be, that's what I want to do is, I got into this because I wanted to entertain people. I didn't think I was going to become rich or Stephen King or anything. I thought you're better off just trying to become a YouTuber, but I did it because I wanted to entertain folks and I enjoyed writing this stuff. But at this point, I just Amazon won't let you give it away, but Wattpad will. So that's why I'm going over there. They won't let you just give a book away unless you do go through a bunch of hoops and everything. And I just don't think it's worth it.
What kind of hoops do they make you do for free stuff?
You'd have to get out of KDP Select entirely.
Right.
And then you would have to go publish it somewhere else. And then you have to email Amazon and tell them that it's free on Smashwords or something. And then they'll price match it or something. And then I don't know. That's nonsense. Just put it on Wattpad and just get it. Just be done with it if you want it to be free. That's what I'm doing now. The thing is, I'd rather have my books be read than sold because I don't make enough to go through the headache of selling the book. The market, what marketing is like. It's just makes you tear your hair out. You're looking at the numbers and you're constantly going in the red, and then you see a spike and then you're back down into the red and lost all that money. And it's like, just screw it. Just read the book or don't. I mean, it's just at this point, I don't want any barriers there. I'm sick of having to deal with the ad companies, the newsletters, having to, throw all this money at something and never making it back. Or, I got, another couple thousand readers, but how much did that cost me? I didn't make nothing back from that campaign. I lost money on this campaign. It's just, I just hate marketing, man.
It's very painful because it feels like it's nickel and diming you, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's like you just keep losing money and gaining readers, but then it's like, well,
I can't eat. So I'm glad I got readers.
I can't eat. Yeah. I'm glad I got readers that aren't, paying the bills.
I guess you would probably say that operating without an agent's probably fine nowadays. Is there any extra work you feel you have to do that you otherwise wouldn't?
Isn't the main point of an agent just for them to get your book into a traditional publisher's hands? They don't really do anything else, do they?
I'm not. I guess they're supposed to filter stuff, and I think a good agent will give you feedback on what publishers or readers want these days. But I guess kind of like stockbrokers, they don't necessarily know what they're talking about.
Yeah, I don't mess with agents or anything. I'm not saying that there's something wrong with messing with one, but I think that's more of you're trying to get in with Penguin Random House or someone like that sort of thing. That's when you would need an agent, but I just don't think that that's something necessary for my work.
Okay, let me rephrase this in a different way. Let's say you're completely unknown. You have no books published and you have one manuscript ready to go. You've edited it a bunch of times. You're confident. What are your steps to getting some traction, getting somewhere? You have to start all over again.
I would do exactly what I did the first time because I think I did, minus the stuff that I did wrong, really, because, I would just tell people do not do social media ads. I don't care what Reddit said. There's nothing good that can come of throwing money at Facebook and Twitter ads. They're just a money pit. They've never, turned a profit with the book, at least. What you need to do is write because you love it, and then share your work with a community that loves that type of work, and then use the newsletters because they're looking for books to read. If you're just sort of here's a great analogy I can put it as when you do it on Twitter, you're basically going up to random people on the street and saying, hey, would you like to buy my book for $20? Just random people that you don't know if they're interested in books or not. And 99.9% of them will just look at you like you're crazy or just ignore you or just this background noise to them versus people who are all outside of the, in the bookstore looking for something to read.
So I guess the advice is avoid social media, write what you think is good, put it in a place where people of that area like it, and then also use the the email platforms such as like BookBub and stuff like that, if you can get in that.
Yeah, I think that's the best. That's the best way you could do it. Yeah,
Save enough money that you can afford those lists, I guess. Based on what you're saying, I gather that you pay per conversion through those lists, or is it paid for the amount of people they send it to? How does that work?
the second one, how many they send it to.
Okay, so if everyone ignores it, you're still paying. Oh, interesting. That's good to know.
I've been through that exact process. I've used one of those lists in the past at a discount. And yeah, I could see the difficulty in trying to turn a profit in publishing. It's just very, very difficult. And so I guess I kind of went away from doing ebooks and kind of focusing on putting free articles on the website, which ranks in Google, and then you get Google traffic, which can funnel to an email list, which you can then pitch digital products from. So can anyone make money in the ebook business right now? I know in 2015 there was a bit of a spike, but right now in current 2021.
Yeah, I'm curious what Jack thinks about that.
No,
No, really?
no,
So you think it's just physical books, like ebooks, or just...
nope, not that either.
So then what's the leftover?
Nothing.
You'll make nobody who writes can make money.
Don't write then.
Don't write to make money.
Don't write as a motive to make. Okay, got it.
Don't write to make money. It's just you're wasting your time, because I've told people on the podcast, and this is 100% true. Reading it was huge back before television and stuff, because there was nothing else basically. Unless it's really smutty romance, you're not going to get really big money right now. Unless you're with the money. The only two genres I could think of that could turn a profit are romance and politics. Those are the only two things that'll make you any amount of money right now.
How are you finding your success on Audible? Because I actually got one of your books on Audible when I was preparing for this this interview.
Audible is actually really good. They actually pay you something decent, I think. Because this is what I was going to say. I always sort of do this idea of attention scale, is I guess what you could call it. I've never had a name for this, but the idea is the easier something is to consume, the more people will consume it.
Yeah, for sure.
With reading, you're having to look at a page with words on it and having to read it, and just that's the heaviest way to consume something. You know what I mean? Because you have to actively read the page to get
Undiverted attention, just solely this one activity.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have the stuff. It sort of goes I guess to video games, because you still have to do input, but you can kind of just walk around and just chill out. So video games will be slightly less engaging than you would with the book attention wise. And then you get into movies, YouTube, all of that. You can watch it, you can listen in the background, but there's a visual element, so you're still engaged one way or another attention wise. And then you have podcasts, which is absolutely the lowest, I would think, because you can just most people listen to a podcast when they're driving. So they wouldn't be, really, I doubt they'll be focusing on the podcast words, every single word of the podcaster is saying.
Oh, no. Our listeners definitely do. Hang on. Every single word. Are the smartest, most engaged listeners, of course. Also, this seems like a great pitch for Audible.
Do they? Oh, you're going to get so much hate mail for this episode. It's going to be great.
Yeah, our first hate mail.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But actually, I was tempted to be and that's why we choose Audible. Please sign up with our code today. We don't actually have a code, but it would have been great.
I like Audible, though. Audible really takes the best of podcasting and, the best of books. So that's what I love about Audible, is you can write, but then it also gives people the easiest way to consume it,
So, yeah, I'm actually curious. When you get with them, I assume you have to have your book in audio form already. So, how did you go about? You don't? They give you a narrator?
Yeah.
Oh, what? Interesting. How does that work? Do you have to pay up front, or is it just on the back end?
No, you don't even have to pay at all, really. It's sort of you have different levels of how you deal with this, but Audible isn't where you go. You go to a site called ACX. I don't know what it stands for, but it's Alpha Charlie X-Ray is what it would be. ACX.com. You go there and you upload your book. I think usually though you'll pick it out from your Kindle thing. So you've already put it on Amazon anyway. So you put it on Amazon and then you say, all right, this is my book. You search for your book, you find it, claim this book, okay? And then you say, I want to make this an audio book. So they go through the little setup and everything. It's not hard. It doesn't take long at all. And then you say, there's two options. Rather, I already have the audio. So if you recorded it yourself or you had some, one else do it professionally outside of ACX, you can upload it yourself. Or you can say, I need a narrator. I can't remember the exact wording of this, but you'll see it when you try, but when you do the thing. but it'll have you an option to that you need a narrator. So what you can do is you'll post it and narrators will come to you and they'll do an audition. That's usually 5 minutes, like the first, 3 pages is what it actually is. So they'll read the first 3 pages and you'll have a ton of, narrators, and you just pick who you want to be your narrator. Then you cut them a deal. The deal is you can pay them per hour, which is usually $100 to $200 an hour per finished hour is what they call it. So if your audiobook's going to be 8 hours, you'd pay, $1,000 or so. Or you can do a royalty share where they will, make money off of your book in perpetuity, basically. Like, you don't pay them anything up front, but they will make money when you make money, more or less. So it's a risk for them, but at the same time, if you shoot up and be the next Stephen King, it's an investment for them versus, making $1,000 up front. So a lot of readers really like that royalty share, because if you think about it, if you do a bunch of audiobooks, you're constantly having like a small stream or even a big stream of income that you get forever. Like you never...
Nice passive income there.
Yeah, so you never lose that. You're always getting it.
Do you know what the cut is typically for them? Like, what are they earning for book?
They screw you so hard on this. Audible takes 60%, and then you and the narrator get 20% each.
Oh, so even split then between you and the narrator. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's not terrible. I always actually wondered how like buying with credits works for there. I assume if like they get money for the credit and then whatever your book's listed at, I don't know. Do you know anything about that? Like, do they pay out the amount of the credit, or do they pay out the listed price of the book?
They pay out the 20% on the listed price of the book.
Okay, so then credits are where it's at for authors, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it goes either way, I guess. But the whole credit thing is you're already paying $15, for the month or whatever, and they give you the credits. We also have a thing that you could do that's probably the best way to make money on Audible is to do a bounty link where it's like here's my book. If you sign up for Audible and you can get this book for free, and then Audible will pay you like $50, and like you get like $25, split between. You get 25, the narrator get 25 per sign up for Audible with, if they get your book from there. So
when you do that, do you list it at like a really high price for a while? Like it's a $50 book.
No. You don't, you can't choose your Audible price. Audible decides how much the book is worth.
Oh, wow. So they've really got a complete domination there.
That is all them when it comes to the pricing of your book. You have no like input on how much your audiobook cost.
Amazon's really grabbing as much power as they can over the people producing their stock. So you have your own podcast there. We've only got a few minutes left, so I figure we can ask you about that. What is your podcast about? What do you talk about? Where can people find you?
You can find me at terrortracks.com/listen. That's where you'll get all like my social media plus the podcast outlets and all of that.
And Trax is TRAX, right? With an X?
Yes, TRAX. The whole entire show is the first segment is usually talking about writing, the publishing industry, basically what we did today, but I'm doing it by myself. And then the second chapter of the podcast is you'll listen to a new audiobook chapter every week. So, every season is a different story, and every episode you get a new part.
Oh, interesting. So you do like a serial book. Are you the one reading it?
No, I have one of my audiobook guys do it. So like the Audible version, since I own the rights to it anyway, I just use that as segments to try to sell the audiobooks more or less. But because if you're like listening to the book, you're like, I want to hear the next part right now. You'll just run to Audible and go get it. Not have to wait a week to hear the next part of the serial. So we've done 2 so far. Condemned was season 1 and Ghostwriter was season 2. And now we're about to do Bring Me a Dream when season 3 rolls around later this month. So let's go. No, we're not doing Bring Me a Dream. We're doing Harvest the Children this coming up this into this month. So, and then Bring Me a Dream after that probably.
The most recent book you have out last week was which?
The Last Ride.
Okay. So, and they can find that on Amazon and Audible yet? Or
I'm going to probably read that for free because it's only 2 pages. No, that one's 10 pages. That's right. That's the 10-page one, but it's not long enough to go on Audible. I don't want to bother a reader with that. I'll read it myself. But yeah, I mean, like the second chapter of the thing is just a serialized episode of, dramatized audio. It's sort of like an audio drama. So you get a new episode every week of that. So first part is lesson, second part is audio drama, and the third part is I review a Are You Afraid of the Dark episode, like in order.
Nice. Classic.
Yeah, so basically from the beginning when I started doing this, I think I didn't start doing the reviews until like episode 3 of season 1. So just if you're looking for that, you might want to skip a few episodes forward. Well, you might not, because you'll end up in the middle of Condemned and not know what you're listening to. So the point is, whenever I started that, I started with episode 1 of Are You Afraid of the Dark? And I just went forward. Like, I didn't pick episodes I liked. I just went, you know what, we're going to do this straight through, episode 1 through episode whatever until the show is over, because, you have to have good and bad episodes. And I learned pretty hard that the first season was horrible. I'm surprised it got renewed. It was terrible. Most of the bad episodes are in season 1.
This is on Are You Afraid of the Dark, you mean?
Yeah, like so many bad episodes in the first season.
Right, yeah, no, I think a lot of things take a bit of time to get their stride, but
season 2 wasn't much better.
Well, I guess we'll keep that in mind. But yeah, we got to wrap this up because Steve actually just had to take off. So thanks for showing up. I guess you've plugged the things you want to say. Is there anything else you want to mention, or are you good?
No, I mean, that's good. Just everybody go to terrortracks.com/listen, LISTEN, so you can see my social media or whatever. Listen to the show. Come scream at me on Twitter because you don't like what I'm saying on there. So I don't care. It's cool.
Yeah, engagement is engagement, I guess. All right, thanks for coming, Jack, and hope to talk to you again.
All right, man. Thank you.
I was going to say, are you bougie enough that you're hiring a personal shopper these days?
Actually, yeah, they do offer that service in grocery stores.
Yeah.
So yes, I do.
Oh my God.